Thank you very, very much for your statement. Let me begin the questions. Let me ask unanimous consent that we have 10 minutes on each side initially, which would include and then after that 5 minutes for each member. And of course, if we need a second or third round, we will do that as well. So without objection, so moved. One of the key questions is when you discovered the massive losses at Merrill Lynch, Mr. Lewis. You have said that you learned of them late and they came as a big surprise. But the emails from the Feds tell a different story. Tim Clark from the Fed said that your claim to be surprised seemed somewhat suspect. The federal Governor Kevin Warsh wrote that this claim is not credible, and there are more like this. It is clear that the Feds think you either knew or you should have known about these losses sooner. I have to say, everything that was happening in the financial markets last fall, your claim that you had no idea about Merrill's losses until December is remarkable. The Fed seem to think that you are either not being forthcoming about that or you were completely clueless about the merger and the situation on Wall Street. My question is, when exactly did you know about these losses, and why didn't you know about them sooner?
Yes, so thank you for the question. The financial markets in the fourth quarter of 2008 suffered a massive credit meltdown, something that probably had not been seen during our lifetimes. And we saw that happening in September and in October, and we knew that we saw things that was evidenced in our own book that suggested that things were bad and getting worse. We also had heard rumors on the street that other banks were suffering losses as well. So that particular the losses at that particular time were not concerning because they were consistent with others in the marketplace and what we were seeing as well. But then in mid-December, the forecast losses accelerated dramatically. And so it wasn't that that we didn't know about losses. The concern was the fact that these losses accelerated, and that was what gave us the grave concern.
Let me put it this way. Did you move forward with the Merrill deal because of pressure from government officials or because you thought it was in the best interest of Bank of America and its shareholders?
Yes, sir. There's been a lot of talk about the pressure from the federal government. It is true that we were told that if we went through, or I can't exactly remember the exact words, so please give me license with word for word. But basically, if we went through with calling the MAC, that the government could or would remove management and the board. And I've said in the past that it was the threat was not what gave me concern. What gave me concern that they would make that threat to a bank in good standing. So it showed the seriousness with which they thought that we should not call a MAC, a material adverse change. And so as a result of that, that was a factor in our decisions, because here your regulators and the federal government was saying, we don't think calling the MAC is the best thing for you or the financial system. But there were also other considerations. You weren't assured you'd win the MAC. If, in fact, you lost the MAC, you were subject to severe lawsuits and severe amounts of money that you'd have to pay. And so we thought, given the fact that the government felt that strongly and the fact that there was a risk that you wouldn't get you would not win the MAC, and then finally that you might end up not getting Merrill Lynch in any sense, even after paying the fines. We felt like, because of all those factors, that it was in our best interest, that is the Bank of America's shareholder best interest, to go through with the merger.
So you were pressured.
It's hard to find the exact right word to describe what I just described. So I've found as I've tried to have different words that it's best just to describe it and let people come to a conclusion.
Yeah. I yield to the gentleman, the ranking member, for the rest of my minutes.